Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Mole in Hell, your Diablo 4 podcast. My name is ChaosMole, and today it is episode 10. It is the episode before, well, at least the early access release of Diablo 4, and I'm hyped. No, seriously, I'm absolutely hyped for this. We've been waiting now for Diablo 4 for so long, and well, I would say some people will have to wait a little bit longer, and I'm not even talking about early access. I just mean in general. When the game is coming out, I do believe that the game will not be finished. Blizzard has made it very clear that they see it as a live service game, and for that it would take much longer till they are getting basically to the point of where they wanted the game to be, which I always find very annoying and very unfortunate. But here we are. I'm still absolutely hyped for it. I already made the decision to play my BARP, and then we will go through the story. We will also play this on a live stream, so if you want to check it out, make sure to go to my main channel where we will probably stream this. I will mostly just keep all the recorded stuff here on this channel, on the Mole RP channel. And then if you want to see the live streams of me just playing Diablo 4, you can do that at ChaosMole here on YouTube, which is my main partner channel and all that. If you don't know about it, I have multiple YouTube channels. This is just another one. And because YouTube is stupid and you have to basically split up your projects, or the algorithm is like, oh wait, you have different games you're playing? Dude, I don't like that. So right, if you want to check that out, make sure to check out the ChaosMole channel here on YouTube at ChaosMole or /ChaosMoleFX if you want to use the partner link. And we will definitely stream Diablo 4 starting on Friday at 8 a.m. East Coast time. That is 1 p.m. UK time and 2 p.m. Central European time. And if you're wondering, Mo, why you're not doing a midnight stream? It's just not, nah man, it's too late for me. And I want to be like in a good mood. I want to be prepared. I don't really want to push through. Like I'm too old for midnight releases, so to speak. And I just let it happen. But yeah, early access is coming up. We will see. Also, we will see if I'm getting into the game and if the game is running, because let's be real here, I still expect that the servers will be burned somewhere. So we'll see how that goes. But then when we are talking the next time, it will be the in-between release Diablo podcast, and I think we would just talk about early access and how far it did come, how the servers are holding up, and so on and so forth. It should be very, very interesting. So I don't really have anything specific planned for next week, just because it will be on the fly. Like everything we will talk about will just happen, and it will be a lot. But this week, we actually talk a little bit about the lore in Diablo 4. I know some people will immediately go like, wait, there's lore in Diablo? Yeah, there is. There's actually quite a bit of it. They even have multiple books, believe it or not. But to make it very clear, there will be no spoilers here. This is all just guesswork and what I assume might happen. I have not seen any data mined information. I didn't have read any Reddit threads or anything. I hate spoilers, right? So this is just me doing some guesswork. If you want to jump in on that, you're more than welcome to do so in the comments. Let me know what you think about the certain lore topics and where we are heading in Diablo 4. But as I said, please keep the whole leaks and whatnot out of the comments, because nobody needs that. Nobody wants that. It's just unnecessary. So, what do we have? Well, Diablo 3 ended. As you might know, Reaper of Souls ended, and the first thing we have is that over 50%, I think it was actually over 60%, like, man, Blizzard is backtracking on those numbers. Wasn't it even like over 80% of humanity who perished in Reaper of Souls? Well, now they are back to over 50%, whatever that means, of the humanity has perished after Reaper of Souls, which is a huge problem. Yes, this is playing 50 years after the events of Reaper of Souls, but 50 years, man, that's one generation of humans, so to speak. Like, and 50% have been perished. So they basically got Thanos snapped and just disappeared, which is kind of crazy. And it leads to so many big questions, right? Like how many of the big cities got evaporated because of that? Like, did some cities just got rebuilt? What happened with like certain people which were really important? Did they also got perished? Right? There's so much which could have happened, and it gives Blizzard a pretty big canvas to play with, which I'm actually really excited about. I'm not just interested to see like all the new places, but I think at some point we would go back to the old continent where Diablo, most of Diablo 2 and 3 was actually playing on, right? And I'm really curious to see where that goes because we are on a different continent this time. Like, I think Act 3 in Diablo 2 was actually playing on the same continent we are on, but that was it, if I remember that correctly. And again, every time I'm not 100% sure and I'm not 100% correct, please correct me down below in the comments. I want to get this right. I have some some written notes here so that I'm not stumbling all the time about what happened, and not that I'm saying anything wrong, but please correct me there. More than welcoming that. But back to the topic. So yeah, a lot of people died, and it seems like that the big evils, the prime evils, and all the smaller evils have been freed when Malthael died, right? And it's this, oh, that's interesting. Or I think we actually took in those souls. Again, I'm not quite sure. Like, that's the problem. Blizzard has been vague by the end of Reaper Souls what happened, and then even in between, I think we will get a lot of those questions answered. What happened in between in Diablo 4? Like normally, developers are trying to release some books, some comics, some videos to make sure that everyone is up to date on what happened. And yes, Blizzard did that to a certain degree, but there is still like a lot of question marks. Like one of the biggest one is what happened to you? Well, not to you, but what happened to the Nephilim you played? You played the Nephilim, which is like the humans, when demon and angels love each other very much. That's how a Nephilim is born, and that's how a Nephilim came to be, right? And then over the centuries and millennia, basically, the Nephilim blood diluted, and this is how humanity came to be. So we are basically just a mere like shadow of its former self. And Diablo 3, you played the Nephilim, and Turiel made it pretty clear at the end that there might be a time where the Nephilim will get tempted, and the big question is, will they be able to not get tempted? Right? Will they become the next evil? They kind of implied that in the end of Diablo 3. And now the big question is the Nephilim still around? Yes, I do think so. Like, again, a Nephilim doesn't seem to die of old age, or if they are dying of old age, it's centuries, if not millennia, before that happens. So 50 years should be a walk in the park for the Nephilim, and the Nephilim should be still around, which again leads me to the question, what happened? Like, all the things happening in Sanctuary right now, and the Nephilim is not spurring to action immediately? Huh. That's a bit weird, isn't it? It really leads to the question of what happened, right? So we have to see how that goes. Speaking of where is he, where's Turael? Another big question here. Turael, yes, is now mortal, we know that, but they also made it pretty clear that Turael, even though he is now immortal, is not dying of old age. He's more like an elf now, right? Like, yeah, sure, he can get murdered, but he cannot really die through just age or even through sickness or something like that. So, big question is, where is Turael? Again, there are so many like things happening in Sanctuary right now. Yes, he is on another continent, sure, but you should kind of realize what the heck is going on here, right? And we haven't seen him yet. And I find it also interesting that Lorath, who was in Reaper of Souls, like he was the young Horadrim, which you also saw in the cutscene, and which then followed you and Turael through the story and also in the adventure mode. So if you have been wondering who that young fellow was who was always next to Turael and talking to him, that was actually Lorath. You are now meeting as an old grizzled man, as wannabe Deckard Cain, so to speak, in Diablo 4. And it's fascinating, right? Like Lorath is not really mentioning Turael, which is absolutely fascinating. He left the whole Radrim, which is pretty clear, which is also like, whoa, what happened here? And there's still this little hint they gave at the beginning when they first showcased Diablo 4. And he talked to somebody in the grave and he called him old friend. And you sometimes wonder, who was that old friend? Is that Turael's grave? Did Turael die? Right? I don't think so. Blizzard, look, Blizzard will not murder another main character like that. Diablo 3 was, I think Blizzard is still recovering from the decision of killing Deckard Cain. That was such an unnecessary death, and I truly believe that was one of the deaths Blizzard did choose because they were pissed, right? Like, keep in mind that Blizzard never made a Diablo game before this. Diablo 3 was made by Blizzard, but Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 were made by Blizzard North, completely different studio and completely different people working on it. And there was always this rivalry between Blizzard North and Blizzard, and there was apparently a lot of bad blood between them when they also closed down Blizzard North, which makes sense. And you sometimes heard back in the day that Blizzard just took the opportunity to finally make a Diablo to just showcase, look, we can do it better than you, and here we destroy your work of the past. And that the killing of Deckard Cain was just a reaction from Blizzard on that and some people who worked on this. Again, we don't know if that's really true, but I'm pretty sure what is true is that killing Deckard Cain was such a bad idea. It's such an iconic character who doesn't need a lot of maintenance, right? Like, stay a while and listen is such an iconic sentence known throughout gaming. And even people who have not played Diablo knows where this is coming from. And like Deckard Cain never, even though he was a character you interacted quite a bit with, he was never a character which really interacted with the story too much. He was just standing around, repeating his one-liners, and that was the character. So it was super low maintenance, and people still loved the shit out of him. And then Blizzard killed him off, which again, in my opinion, was one of the worst decisions they could have ever made, and I'm pretty sure they are regretting that decision now a little bit. But nonetheless, so they are now trying to build up Lorath as the new Deckard Cain. We'll see how that goes. He has the voice for it. I really love the voice actor who is doing the voice of him. It's the same voice actor who is voicing Sid in Final Fantasy 16, funny enough. And I'm really interested to see where it goes. But yeah, Turael is nowhere to be found. The Nephilim is nowhere to be found. I mean, here's the thing. We could maybe be the Nephilim again. I know it sounds crazy, but when you think about it, you create your character, right? You're then just starting on a horse out in the Goonies, right? Like, you don't know where you are, where you were coming from, and then you are ending up losing your horse and then slowly like going back to civilization. But you don't really know where this character is coming from. You have no information on that. And it's this, wait a minute, maybe you just lost your memory? Or maybe the wolf did something to you? Like, there's a lot of emptiness before the game starts. before you are assuming control of the character. So maybe you with the Nephilim, like, maybe you have lost your memory. It wouldn't be the first game who is trying to pull that trick, right? Again, there's a lot of possibilities here. Speaking of a lot of possibilities, we don't really know what happened to heaven or hell, even though it seems like hell didn't really got scarred too much by all the events which happened in Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls. But we know that heaven got a beating quite a bit in Diablo 3. I mean, they were super close to end the eternal conflict and the demon side winning. But yeah, we don't really know what happened with the heaven afterwards. It didn't look too good, that's for sure. It didn't look too good. So maybe we are getting some answers of that in Diablo 4. Speaking of heaven or hell, let's talk about Lilith and Inarius. Man, that is such an interesting pair. So Lilith is back. Inarius has been there for quite some time and has been basically brooding on how to get back to heaven, because it's clear that he is definitely not happy on Sanctuary. And if you have played the beta a little bit, by the way, super slight spoilers, you meet Inarius only a short time and only once, and most of the time you are just seeing to the effects of Inarius at the surroundings and the other people surrounding him, and you get this feeling of he doesn't want to be here. I'm not saying he is the evil guy. I'm just saying he doesn't want to be here, and he really wants to go back to heaven. While Lilith, as evil as she might look, and her deeds are relatively evil in what she is doing, like she will probably be lawful evil, kinder-ish, she definitely has her own agenda, and I'm not sure if the end goal of that is evil. Like, she got summoned to save us, which I can only assume is actually meant as saving the people of Sanctuary, because she is the mother of Sanctuary and she loved the Nephilims and she loves the human. But she is also doing a lot of like very evil ways of like corrupting humanity and, as she says, give them the power to defend themselves. But nonetheless, she seems to be concerned with an event slowly building up in hell, and she tries to change that. It's really tough to say to where she is going from there, right? And I'm really curious to see what is happening, but I wouldn't be too surprised if we are finding out that Lilith, even though she does a lot of bad things, her intentions are for the betterment of Sanctuary and the betterment of humanity, and she might actually be the hero in the story. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, we have to see. Like in Arius, we haven't seen too much. Like, as I said, he has this aura of don't care, don't want to be here. And Lilith is like, I have to do what I have to do to save people, but not everything I'm doing is good for everyone, right? It's a bit weird. Now, you might think, okay, well, that's all we know so far, right? No, there's one last character we haven't talked about yet, which seems to have its own goals, and that's Doggy, or the wolf, which you're meeting right at the beginning of the campaign, which is saving you after it eats your horse. Weird way of saving us. Or I think it ate the horse. I'm pretty sure it was the same wolf. But yeah, the wolf, the secret admirer, as he says. And I'm so curious who that is. Do I have an assumption who that is? Well, the easiest one would be Mephisto or Diablo, right? Like Mephisto in particular, there is no love between Mephisto and Lilith, even though they are daughter and father. but there is no love lost between those two. That's for sure. It's just like it could be Mephisto, which would be the easiest assumption. Diablo, is it okay? Quick note here: is it crazy for me to assume that Diablo will not be in Diablo 4? Or at least not right from the beginning? I have the feeling we are not fighting Diablo in this one. Like everything seems to lead up to the point of Lilith, Inarius, plus another character behind the scene. And that's kind of it. And then through live service, they have already said that they will add more story to the game, right? So I wouldn't be too surprised if we are not seeing Diablo, at least not in the standard campaign playthrough, which would be crazy and an interesting first. But do I think that the wolf is Diablo? No. Here's the thing: Diablo, at least in the previous games and in the lore, he is not really depicted as the master of disguise and manipulation. That's not his spiel, right? Like he loves to just brute force things. He's very terrifying. He's very evil, right? He's very strong. He's the Lord of Terror. But yeah, I wouldn't say he is like using a lot of subterfuge to play his enemies. That's more like a thing I would put on Mephisto, who has a track record of just convincing, aka corrupting other people to his needs and changing them in a way that benefits him, right? Like he has shown that in the past. So yeah, it could be Mephisto being the wolf, but again, it's just guesswork at this point. I don't know, but I have the feeling it's not Diablo, and I have the feeling we will not see Diablo in Diablo 4, at least not at the beginning. And I'm kind of curious if I would be right. To make something very clear, we will not talk about the story immediately. Next week, I will play through the story because you have to, right? You have to play the story the first time to actually reach the end game of Diablo. But I will not talk about it. Like next week, if you're listening to this podcast and you didn't have the chance yet to actually play Diablo 4 because you don't have early access, which I can totally understand. Like, I will be honest, I would get early access if I wouldn't be a content creator? Hell no. Hell no. Screw that, Blizzard. I hate that. But no, we will not talk about story. So it will be a completely spoiler-free episode. So don't you worry about that. No story spoilers. No story spoilers. But yeah, I think that's all like the information we have right now when it comes to Diablo 4 and where could it lead to. Like, they are definitely trying to build up some new characters who are now following us around. Let's see how long this time those characters survive. Looking at you, Diablo 3. Diablo 3 was such a weird story thing. I sometimes do wonder if they actually thought about ending Diablo as a series after Diablo 3. Like, they killed off so many characters, they introduced so many new characters who then just kill them off again as this, oh, hi new character, bye new character, okay, well, next. Weird, right? And so I'm hoping that Diablo 4 is doing a little bit of a better job. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with them actually killing off main characters or killing characters you came to enjoy over the years. I think that's fair game to a certain degree. But again, what they did in Diablo 3 was just too much. It was just too much. But yeah, I think that's so far, at least for me, when it comes to the lore talk. Let me know down below in the comments what you think about the lore and what we can expect in Diablo 4. As I said earlier, please leave the leaks and all that out of the chat. I know that the game has been data mined to the end, and I don't care. I know that for some people it's super important to have like all the data mined information. For me, it's always like, yeah, no, I don't like that. I like one of the best examples for this. Just a quick note, and then we are wrapping it up here. Like World of Warcraft is data mined to hell, and I find that so annoying. I find that so boring because you know everything before it actually comes to the game. And this is why I love Final Fantasy XIV so much, because it doesn't happen. You don't know what's coming. It is a complete surprise to you. And it's great. It keeps you going, right? And then when you play World of Warcraft, you are looking basically at all the data available, and you just go, oh, is this interesting for me? Oh, should I look at this? Oh, this is the end boss? Oh, this is how the set looks? Oh, right, like you know everything beforehand, and I never enjoyed that much. So I'm trying to keep it to a very low profile in Diablo 4. Now, with that said, this is the end of the 10th episode. Can you believe that? We actually managed 10 episodes already. More to come. Be prepared, though, for a lot more gameplay talk. Like, if you thought, like, man, this show is weird because you're not really talking about the game too much. Well, you can only talk too much about the game which is not out yet, right? But that would change in the next few weeks by quite a big margin. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe for more Diablo podcasts and, of course, more Diablo videos here on the channel. Oh yeah, one last thing. If you're wondering where my Diablo class guides, leveling guides are, I stopped doing them. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Too many guides out there already. Too many people are doing guides. It's nothing special. Like, everyone has a guide, right? Like, you just have to enter Diablo 4 guides in YouTube, and then you have thousands of them. And that's not really what I wanted to do in this channel anyways. That was never my plan. So I was just working on the Rogue guide, and then I realized, what am I doing here? This is not my strength. And also there are so many of those already. So what am I doing here, right? So there will be more guides coming. Don't you worry about that. But it won't be build guides, because as I said, everyone is doing that. It's the one content everyone is doing. It's like the same with the tier list. That there are actually already tier lists out there for the Diablo 4 release on which is the best class and end game is so mind-blowing for me. Especially because that information is now multiple months old, because everyone is taking the closed endgame beta, which happened in what? October last year? So, you know. But with that said, folks, I have to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.